My parents ditched my graduation and then they blocked my number. A month later, I finally figured out why, and let me tell you, I'll never talk to them again. I'm Marissa, 24, and I have two older brothers, Evan and Colin. Growing up, it was always obvious my parents favored Evan, the oldest. He could do no wrong in their eyes. Colin, my middle brother, was the troublemaker, but even that seemed to get him more attention. As for me, I was completely invisible. The quiet, good kid, always in the background. To be honest, though, I was pretty used to being ignored. That is, until graduation rolled around. Picture this, I'd killed myself for 4 years part-time job, internships, and keeping my grades up. My degree? Yeah, my parents didn't really care about that. Art history? They thought it was a joke, something useless, but I didn't let it bother me too much. I worked my tail off, and when graduation day finally came, I really hoped my family would be there. I'd invited them months in advance, asked them nicely to come. I was nervous, but excited too to have them there to share it with them. It was huge for me. I mean, I'd heard stories about parents skipping graduations, and I always thought, those people are nuts. How could you not go to your kid's graduation? It's a big deal, a real milestone. So graduation day rolls around, and there I am, all decked out in cap and gown, feeling this crazy mix of happy and terrified. I scan the stands, looking for my family. Nothing, not a peep. No texts, nothing. I figured they were probably stuck in traffic or something. I waited and waited and waited. Then, the ceremony started, and I had to walk across that stage all by myself. My phone finally buzzed after it was all over. It was my mom, just a couple of short sentences. Couldn't make it today, hope you understand. That was it. No reason, no sorry, no clue how much this meant to me. I was stunned, totally shocked. I didn't need a huge party, but this was way worse than disappointing. Everyone else's parents were there, hugging and cheering, and I just felt like such a total idiot. I shot them a text, asking what happened, but crickets for hours. Finally, my dad texts back, "We just didn't feel it was the right time. Let's talk soon." I was so confused. This wasn't them, They weren't exactly the most affectionate parents, but they'd never just completely ignored me like that before. Now they were ghosting me, blowing off my graduation. I kept thinking, did I do something wrong? Days went by and I kept trying to reach out, but the more I called and texted, the more it felt like a brick wall was going up between us. I could sense them drifting away, and I was totally clueless as to why. After a few weeks, they finally got back to me, but it wasn't what I'd hoped for. "Your brothers and I have talked things over," they said. "We think it's best if we don't stay in touch for a bit. We're just trying to keep the peace." That was it. No clue about what was happening or why they were treating me like this. Just a cold, distant message that made me feel invisible. And then it got even worse. A month later, I learned something that completely blew my mind and changed how I saw everything. I was at work, trying to get through another day of awful calls and emails when Colin called. I hadn't really talked to him much since we graduated, and honestly, I wasn't even sure he knew what was going on with me and my parents. But I answered, hoping for some kind of explanation, even from him. "Hey, Marissa," Colin said, sounding way too laid back. "I heard from Mom and Dad. They said they've been having some issues with you lately." My stomach just sank. What issues? I had no idea what he was talking about. "Yeah, they said you've been making things harder for them. You've always been a bit of a disappointment, but this is different. They're just done with you. It's not personal, but they can't deal with you anymore." My heart was pounding. Was he messing with me? This had to be some kind of sick joke, right? But his voice wasn't playful like usual. It was just flat. "Wait, what?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Seriously. Why couldn't they just tell me themselves?" I just froze there for a second. I mean, I don't get it, okay? But it felt like they couldn't keep up the act anymore. They said I shouldn't push them, and honestly, I didn't know what to say. I always tried so hard to keep things calm, to make them proud even though, let's be real, they never really cared what I did. But this was too much. I hung up and just sat there, completely stunned. My brain was a whirlwind, trying to make sense of everything. Problems with me? A disappointment? What the heck happened to my family? Why were they treating me this way? Then it hit me, this wasn't some accident. This was on purpose. Something had shifted, something I didn't know about. That's when I started snooping around. I needed answers. I had to figure out what happened, why my parents suddenly turned on me. So I started asking people. First, I called Evan. He's usually a little more understanding, but even he seemed weird. No details, just this vague, "I don't know, Marissa, you should talk to them" crap. That didn't help at all. Then one day, I saw something that blew my mind. A friend of mine and my brother's posted a picture on Facebook. It was from a family get-together a few weeks back. My parents and brothers were all there, smiling. But something was different. There was someone new in the picture. This woman, I'd never seen her before in my life. The picture had a caption under it, saying something like, "So happy to have our new sister-in-law with us." I just stared, totally shocked. That's when it hit me, I wasn't the one who'd been cut out of the family. It was them who'd cut me off. My folks had brought someone else into their lives, someone they clearly loved way more than me. For days, I was glued to that Facebook photo, couldn't look away from their smiles. They seemed so happy, so genuinely joyful, but all I felt was completely left out in the cold. I had no clue who this woman even was. My parents hadn't said a word about her in their texts, and my brothers, zip. It was like I'd been wiped from their memories. I couldn't wrap my head around it, especially after everything I'd gone through to get my degree. I'd busted my butt harder than anyone else in the family. And for what? To be dumped for some stranger? The next weekend, I decided to call Evan. I wasn't expecting him to have all the answers, but maybe he could at least give me some kind of explanation for this crazy situation. I didn't mention the woman, the picture, nothing. I wanted to see if he'd spill the beans on his own. I called him, and after a couple rings he answered. "Hey, Marissa," he said, all casual-like, way too casual. "Hey," I said, "I need to talk to you about something." I tried to keep my voice even, but it was hard. I've been racking my brain, trying to understand why Mom and Dad are giving me the silent treatment. I needed answers, I really did. He paused for ages on the phone, and I could practically hear him searching for the right words. Finally, he mumbled something about it being complicated. He said I didn't know the whole story and that it wasn't his place to fill me in. My gut clenched. "What do you mean?" I asked. "I'm your sister, Evan. If something's up with the family, I deserve to know." He let out a heavy sigh. "I don't want to talk about this now," he said. "Just trust me, okay? Let it go for a bit, things will calm down." I was getting so mad, but I bit my tongue. "No way," I said. "I'm not letting this go until I know what's really going on." "Are you saying nothing's changed?" I pressed him. He got snippy, his voice tight. "It's not as simple as you think," he snapped. "Maybe you should just drop it, okay?" That was the last straw. I couldn't hold back anymore. "No, I am not dropping it." I practically yelled. "You're pretending everything's fine, but it's obviously not. Why won't Mom and Dad talk to me? Why did they miss my graduation?" I almost screamed that last part. He paused again, his voice softer now. It's about the woman in the picture," he finally said. "Mom and Dad, they're really focused on her. She means a lot more to them than you know." I was stunned. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I didn't know this woman from Adam, but from how Evan was going on, it sounded like she was the reason everything was falling apart for me. The way he said, "more than you think," gave me the creeps, like there was something shady going on. "I don't know her, Evan," I said slowly, trying to figure out what he was getting at. "Why does she matter more than me?" Evan's voice was tense. "You wouldn't get it. Just forget about it, all right." "No," I said, my voice wavering. "Tell me what's really happening. Why is she more important? Why am I being treated like this?" Evan finally lost it. "Because they think you're too much of a problem. You always have been. You were never the perfect daughter they wanted, and they're over trying to fix things with you. You just don't fit what they were hoping for." Those words hit me like a punch. I couldn't believe my ears. "Are you serious?" I asked, my voice barely a breath. "I'm not saying it's right," Evan said, his tone now icy. "But that's the truth of it. They want peace, Marissa, and you're just too much for them to handle right now. They're sick of all the drama." It felt like the rug had been pulled out from under me. My own brother, the one I always thought I could count on, was saying my parents, my family, didn't want me. I wasn't what they wanted. I couldn't catch my breath. My chest felt tight and the room felt like it was shrinking. "How long has this been going on?" I managed to choke out the question, my voice wavering. "A while," Evan responded, though he was clearly trying to play it cool. "I'm not sure when it all began, but it's been brewing for some time. You've been difficult for them," he continued. "They're super stressed, and they figure cutting you off is the way to go." This couldn't be happening. My mind was blank. "But you're okay with this?" I stammered, my voice shaking. A long silence hung in the air before Evan finally replied, his voice far away. "I don't know, Marissa. I'm just trying to keep the peace. It's not like I have a ton of say in this anyway." The call ended soon after that. He didn't say anything else. No comfort, nothing. I slammed the phone down, utterly devastated. I'd been cast aside me, the person I always was, the one they always overlooked. The one who always tried so hard to make them happy. It didn't matter anymore. And then I remembered her, the new sister-in-law they'd welcomed with open arms, the one who'd taken my spot. I had to know who she was. I had to understand why she was so important, why she was the one who mattered now. I couldn't just let it go, not without knowing. My entire life, I'd been trying to get my parents to accept me, to be someone who would make them proud. And now, after everything, I was nothing to them. But I needed answers. I just had to find out more about this woman. I just had to figure out what made her so special, you know? So I spent the next few days totally consumed by that picture. I'd zoom in on her face, poring over every single thing. She seemed to be around my age, give or take, with dark hair and this amazing smile. Part of me already couldn't stand her, and I didn't even know why. But you see, the way my folks looked at her, how happy and complete they seemed with her around, it made me feel physically ill. So I started asking around. First, I talked to some of my brother's friends, then some distant relatives who still kept in touch with my family. It didn't take long to find someone who knew exactly who she was. Her name was Vanessa. She was the girlfriend of Colin's best friend, this guy named Jake. And apparently, she and my parents had clicked right away. Right away, if you ask me. But it wasn't just that. Vanessa had been in my family's orbit for a while. I'd never heard her name before, but apparently she'd been showing up at family things, lending a hand. The more I learned, the more I saw how she'd integrated herself into their lives in ways I just couldn't understand. And the awful part? My parents had let her. No, they welcomed her, but that wasn't even the worst of it. The real punch to the gut came when I found out they'd been planning something for months. Something I wasn't involved in. Something they'd kept from me. The plan was simple. My parents were gonna sell the house, you know, our family home. And instead of splitting the money between us kids, like that's what should have happened, right? They were giving it all to Vanessa. I couldn't believe it at first, but the more I heard people talking, the more it sunk in. Vanessa was their golden child, their perfect daughter, not me. Me, with my art history degree, I never lived up to their crazy expectations of what success even looked like. They were using her to replace me, to fill some hole I supposedly left. The way they betrayed me, I can't even explain how much it hurt. They didn't even come to my graduation, and now this, they were cutting me out completely. They'd already moved on like I was nothing. That's when the anger really exploded. I wasn't gonna just let them get away with it. I had to do something. I decided I was gonna confront them, no more playing nice. I wasn't letting them walk all over me, so I called my mom. It was a Friday night. The phone rang a few times before she answered, and her voice was like ice. "Marissa, what do you want?" I took a deep breath. "We need to talk." A long silence. Then she sighed, all tense. "I don't have time for this. We're busy." I wasn't backing down. "You're always busy," I told her. "But not this time. You're not getting away with this. Mom, both you and Dad have been pushing me away, and I really need to understand why." She didn't answer right away. I could hear her fidgeting around like she was searching for the right words. Then she said, "Marissa, you've always been such a difficult child, always complicating everything." She told me they were done trying to make things work, that they couldn't handle the stress I added to their lives anymore. My heart was racing. Stress? What was she talking about? Did they seriously not want me around anymore? Her answer hit me like a ton of bricks. "Not if it means constantly being let down," she said. "We're exhausted from fighting with you. Vanessa is different. She brings us peace. She doesn't argue with us. She just fits, and honestly, that's what we've always wanted." I felt like the world was falling apart. "Are you really saying this to me? You're replacing me with her?" "We aren't replacing you, Marissa," she answered, and it sounded so condescending. "It's just that you've never been able to give us the relationship we desire. Vanessa can. She gets us, and that's why we've decided to bring her into the family. It's what's best for everyone. You'll understand eventually." I was speechless. "So what now? You're just going to pretend I don't exist? Cut me off entirely?" There was a silence, then she just said, flat out, "If that's what you want to believe, then yes." Something inside me just broke. All those years, trying so hard to make them love me, to make them see me, and for what? They were just tossing me aside like garbage. Like I never even mattered. My voice shook, I was so angry. "What about the house?" I choked out. "What are you doing with the house?" There was this pause, like she was figuring out what to say. Then, all calm and breezy, she goes, "Yeah, that's going to Vanessa." It felt like my world was collapsing. "You're giving it all to her." They were giving everything to this stranger. "It's a new start for everyone," my mother said. "We want to help her get settled, build a life. She deserves it." I was burning up inside. They were stripping me bare. My family, my memories, the house I grew up in, all gone. This is cruel, I whispered, fighting back tears. You're showing me just how little you care. You've always been too much, Marissa, she said, and then she just hung up. I just sat there, phone pressed to my ear, the dial tone buzzing. I couldn't wrap my head around it. How could they do this so easily? How could they pick some random woman over their own daughter? The anger, I'd never felt anything like it. My whole life, I'd twisted myself into knots trying to get their approval, and it was never enough. And now, after all that, they replaced me. They found someone new and just threw me away. I wasn't going to let them get away with it. Not this time. This wasn't over. I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I had to do something, and fast. I'd always played it safe with my family, never rocking the boat or speaking my mind. But I was at my limit, and they were about to see what that meant. Over the next few days, I tried digging up some info. My brothers were useless, dodging my calls and texts like I was contagious. Evan had clearly swallowed my parents' story hook, line, and sinker, but I wasn't giving up. One evening, I went to my parents' place, acting like I just wanted to visit, but really hoping to catch them off guard. Vanessa's name had been popping up so much lately, I figured she'd be there. I just needed to get close enough to figure out what was really happening. When I got there, the house was silent, creepy quiet. Mom's car was there, so I knew she was home. I knocked, not really expecting anything, but hoping for a glimpse of the truth. Mom opened the door and her face just dropped when she saw me. She didn't even say hi, just went straight to, "Marissa, what are you doing here?" Her tone was already shutting me down. "Just wanted to check in, Mom," I said, trying to sound calm. "I've been thinking about what you said the other day, and I wanted to talk." She sighed like I was a huge pain, but she moved aside and let me in. I walked into the living room, and right there, on the mantel, was the picture of my parents Colin and, Vanessa. Seriously, I thought. They actually put it on display? "How's Vanessa doing?" I asked, trying to sound totally chill, like I hadn't even seen the photo. My mom's voice had this little catch in it when she said, "She's fine, Marissa. She's part of the family now, and I wish you'd just accept that." I almost lost it, but I held back. "You said you were helping her get settled," I said, "but I was just wondering, what exactly is she doing to help out?" Mom's eyes narrowed. "What are you getting at?" I played it cool, leaning in a little. "Well, you've been spending a lot of time with her," I said. "What's she contributing that I'm not?" Her face got all tight. "You don't understand, Marissa, and it's really none of your business." "Oh, I think it is," I shot back. "I'm still family, right? Or am I just a problem now? You've made it pretty obvious that you want me gone." She actually flinched. That was all I needed to hear. She started to say something, but I cut her off. "And about the house. I bet you've already worked everything out with Vanessa, right? You're just going to hand it over to her, aren't you?" Her face went hard, but she didn't say no. "It's for the best, Marissa. It's our decision. You can't just barge in here and try to take control of everything." I kept my voice even, but I was fuming. "I'm not trying to control anything. Look, I just needed to understand. If Vanessa was getting the house, did that mean they were seriously planning to screw me over completely?" "Don't be so melodramatic," she snapped back. "It's a fresh start. You have to move on." Move on? Those words just hung in the air. Right then, I knew there was no turning back. They made their decision, but I had too. They hadn't heard the last from me. I stood up, looked at my mom for a long moment, and walked towards the door. "This isn't over, Mom," I told her. "I'll get what's rightfully mine, you'll see." She didn't even bother to look up as I walked out, but I knew, deep down, that this was just the beginning. This wasn't even close to being over. The following weeks were a blur. I started making calls, working connections. I didn't need a law degree to know they were pulling something shady, cutting me out of what was mine. That house wasn't just theirs to give away. It was part of my future, my inheritance, and I wasn't about to let them hand it to Vanessa on a silver platter. I found an attorney specializing in family inheritance law. I didn't tell them who I was initially. I just pretended to be a worried relative with some general questions. Little by little, meeting after meeting, I started putting the pieces together. Then the moment I'd been waiting for arrived. I had it all. The legal documents, the evidence proving my parents' shady dealings, the undeniable proof of their betrayal. I was going to hit them where it really hurt. That house wasn't just bricks and mortar, it was everything, my legacy, my whole life, all my best memories. They weren't going to take that away from me, so I called a family meeting. I was done playing nice. I was going to lay it all out, no holds barred. Even Vanessa needed to hear this. My parents were so smitten with her, so eager to give her everything, they hadn't even seen the huge legal mess they were creating. When everyone was finally settled, Colin included, totally caught up in this whole new family delusion, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. They probably thought I'd just sit there and take it, all quiet and agreeable, but those days were over. I was finished playing their game. "Let's talk about the house," I announced, keeping my voice even but making sure they all heard me. Mom shot me a terrified look, but it was too late. The truth was coming out whether they liked it or not. "You've been planning to hand it all over to Vanessa, haven't you? Without even telling me, without telling anyone. And you've already decided to cut me out completely, right?" I pressed on. "Well, guess what? I've talked to a lawyer, and I've got the papers to prove you've broken the will and ignored my rights." My dad went as pale as a ghost. Colin was still reeling, but I saw the gears starting to turn in his mind. Vanessa just kinda stared at me, all confused, but I could see in her eyes she didn't like how this was playing out. My mom's voice was shaky when she told me to knock off the drama. She said it was their decision, end of story, and I just had to deal with it. I leaned in, looking right at them both. "You want respect? Maybe you should have thought about that when I was a kid. But I'm through. You can't just replace me with her and cut me out because you think I'm a pain. I'm gonna fight for what's mine. I'll even take you to court if I have to." It got real quiet then, this awful, heavy silence. Nobody moved a muscle. Mom looked like she was about to open her mouth, but I cut her off. "I'm done with both of you," I told them. "I don't need to be around people who are only in it for themselves, who use me when they need something and then ditch me when they don't. I'm done." And I walked out, just like that. I never talked to them again. They had to put the house sale on hold because of the lawsuit, so they couldn't just give it to Vanessa like they wanted. I used the money I got, the part that was rightfully mine, to start my own business, something I knew they'd hate. But I didn't care. It's been radio silence ever since that day. The truth is, they never really cared about me, and that became crystal clear. Sometimes I still wonder if I made the right call, but honestly, I know deep down this was the only way to get back at them.